everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. This is the second session in this week's Build Academy. To start with some introductions, my name is Alexa, and I head up the customer success and service teams for Houzz Australia and New Zealand. And I'm joined today by Giri, who is our support tech expert, and Keith, who is a part of our product marketing team. And together, they will run through the live demo of all of our features. And for today, what we'll do is discuss what your project workflow could look like on Houzz Pro, along with some of our most popular project management tools. Keith is going to start us off with how to use takeoffs, and then Giri will take over from there and teach you how to use estimates, how to set up scheduled payments, and provide some invoicing tips. He'll then move into the timeline and how to assign tasks before finishing up with how to collaborate with your teams and subcontractors. So at the end, we'll wrap up with some general Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Keith, who's going to start us off with takeoffs.
Morning, guys. Hi to everyone and welcome. Thanks, Alexa, for the intro. I am indeed part of the product marketing team here at Houzz, but more importantly, I'm also a carpenter and builder by trade. I've worked in residential construction for the past 17 years, and I was also heavily involved in the building of the Takeoff product, so I should be able to answer any questions you have. What I'm really excited to do today is to give you guys a good understanding of the Takeoff product and arm you with the knowledge you need to be able to confidently use takeoffs in your business. What I really don't want to do today is to overwhelm you, so I'll try and take it slow and always be aware that we are here to help, and if you want another session in the future, we can be available for that, and we also have a really extensive help center. A couple of things that I'm going to run through today is coming from Houzz Pro, how to navigate to the Takeoff product, so just really the fundamentals of getting started. I'm going to show you around all of the tools and settings we have in the Takeoff product, and then I'll show you how to measure a few different materials to get real-life examples just to finish off. If you have any questions or would like me to show you how to measure maybe a specific material, please be sure to drop a comment, as kind of Alexa said, and we'll try and get to it at the end if we have some time. Look, before we jump in and share my screen, I'd love to give you kind of a bit of a background. A question that we hear a lot is, why digital takeoffs? My way is just fine. That's okay, and that works for some people, but be assured that there is a better way. Printing and measuring plans with a scale ruler and highlighter is super slow, it's cumbersome, and most importantly, it's extremely prone to human error in calculations, which affects your bottom line at the end. And not to mention also that the printer always acts up, and the amount of times that I ran out of ink when trying to do a takeoff was a lot and very frustrating. So doing your takeoffs digitally, it will give you the confidence you need to quote and win bigger jobs. It also gives you a documented source of truth for when you do actually win the job. You can come back and reference all the work that you've done. And so it's not kind of lost in a paper trail somewhere. A few typical uses we see for the takeoff functionality in Houzz Pro. First one, of course, is when you're doing an estimate. We see a lot of builders using it just for a quick meter squared, so that they give a client a kind of a guide of the cost for the whole project before they get into doing a detailed takeoff. So that's another example. We can get stuck in and do a really detailed takeoff to send over an estimate. When sending out quote requests to subcontractors, we don't see this used super commonly, but if you want to be really clear with your subcontractors to show them exactly what it is that they need to measure, you can attach a marked up plan just to highlight the areas that they need to focus on when they're quoting a job. And then finally is when you're actually doing the job. So during the process of it, ordering materials, jumping back in there. If you're ordering block work, framing, whatever it might be, you can jump in and use the takeoff tool throughout the whole project. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'll just jump in and share my screen. Just to kind of kick things off, this is your Houzz Green profile. So I want to show you really the entry points into Houzz Pro. So this blue button up here on the right-hand side, so we click that one. And from there, you can have takeoffs either in the leads phase or the projects phase. So we have this one set up in projects. So we click on all projects. What this does is it gives me a list of all of projects that I have uploaded to Houzz Pro. So for today, we're clicking into the Builders Academy demo. And here we have all of the features kind of available for when you're in that project. So right down here on the left-hand side, you can see all the various features. So we click on takeoffs. I already have a set of plans uploaded to this project, but if you don't and you've just started a new project, what happens there is when you click that button, a modal will pop open asking you just to upload a set of PDF plans from your computer, and then we'll just take you straight to this page. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just kind of give you a run around this page just for kind of some housekeeping to show you all of the settings and the tools. So you see here on the left-hand side, these are the 2 plans that I've uploaded. So they were part of one PDF, and for you guys, that would be typically the architectural plans. But if you're uploading multiple sets of plans, say you need the engineering in here as well, you'll be able to navigate through to them from the top up here. You'll see there's a drop down. So you would have a list of multiple sets of plans if you had, say, architectural, engineering, and then whatever other plans you might have. On each page, we have a few settings. If you hover over it, you'll see 3 dots here. So if we click on that, you can see there's a few features. So rotate. Sometimes if plans have come from another system, they might come in sideways. So you can just rotate pages really simply there. You can rename a page. It just comes in numbered. So we'll call this one floor plan. You can clone a page. So if this feature is really amazing for that use case for measuring a few different trades. So if you're measuring for, say, carpentry, roofing, framing, and you want to keep all of those separate, you can just click this clone page and it will give you a fresh, clean page exactly the same as this that you can continue to measure on. And then finally, we have delete, just if you want to tidy up the number of pages here and just kind of remove some of them. Now, we just take a quick look at the page settings. They're down here on the bottom left-hand side. So the line width, you see there's multiple choices here. Depending on how thick you want a line, we kind of have it set as 1. And by the line, I mean just how thick this line is. The page scale, we have that automatically set as 1:100 because 90% of residential construction plans are 1:100. But if you see on a page that you've uploaded that it's 1:50 or 1:200, you can simply just delete here and change that. But we'll keep that as 1:100 because that's correct for today. And then in the rare case, so again, 90 to 95% of plans that we see uploaded are perfect and this scale works fine. But if for whatever reason the measurements aren't working out, and we can check that by just clicking on the lens tool, and we just check over one measurement. So you can see that come up as 8.5 meters. So this is perfect. But if it's a scanned set of plans or you've taken them from another system, the scale might be altered. So we can use this button down here, Find Scale, which will set the scale to the exact plan. So I'll just go ahead and show you how that works. So what it's asking you to do is to make a known measurement on top of an existing measurement on the page. So you find the longest measurement you can find, and then we'll type in the scale. So up here we have 20 meters, 0.115. So if I click on one end and then double click on the other, and we go 20.115 scale. And you'll see that it's just come back as 1:100. So if the page is something else, well, this will just automatically update. Okay, we're just going to jump in and show you the tool. So we've tried to set the whole page up to feel as natural as possible. So it's almost like Plan Viewer on your computer, on your existing computer. What we've added in is tools up here. So the rectangle makes symmetrical measurements. So you just click in one corner and drag to the other and release. You'll see the measurement appears up here. We can rename that if we want. So we'll just call that one square 1. And press enter. The polygon does the same thing. It gets the meter squared measurement. But what we use this one for is if the room is not symmetrical. So the rectangle is great for just doing a quick square rectangle. Polygon, you can see that you click around the room here and just drop a click on each corner as you're going and double click to finish. And again, you can see you can rename that as you go. The length tool is for doing linear measurements. What I'll do, I'll just zoom in slightly here. So we're just clicking around. So if we were doing skirting or framing or cornice or anything that you just need a linear measurement for, double click to finish, and you can see here that gives you 15.28 linear meters. The deduct tool, I will get to that slightly later when we move down to looking at the elevation, but the deduct tool works for taking an area out of an existing meter squared measurement. So if you're, say, doing cladding on the side of a house, or if you're doing a kitchen and you wanted to remove the kitchen island because you're not going to be putting floor under that, or you want to remove this area, that works awesome. The count tool does kind of exactly what it says on the tin. It's just for counting doors, toilets, vanities, architraves. We've kind of seen it for all use cases, even for piers for concrete. The annotate function. So this does a few things. You can write text, so fix this. So if you just want to make notes on the plan for yourself, we can also do a cloud. So if you want to do a little speech bubble, and then you can put text inside there. We have an arrow if you need to point at something to call out a particular point. And again, you can change all the colors here, so that works well. And then we just kind of have a scribble tool as well. So you can draw or a circle, or if you need to remove something. And one thing I'd really like to focus on today, and I'll show you as we're doing different measurements, is using this group feature. So what the group feature does is it groups multiple measurements together to give you a total. And I'll just show you quickly how that works, and we'll really get into it as we're measuring specific materials. So we click on a tool that we want to use, and then we click on New Group. And I'll just call this one Group 1. And we can give it a color, and I'm just going to give you an example of how this works. So if I was just did 1, 2, 3. And you can see up here on the right-hand side that the first few measurements I did are kind of individual measurements, and this one is a group. So these 3 measurements make up a total. That feature in itself is something that will speed up all of your processes 10x, and we really encourage people to use that feature because you can set up your groups and you can make them your favorite so that they're across your account. So if you have the same kind of things that you measure from job to job, this will be an awesome tool just to help you get set up and speed up your whole processes. I'll just take a pause there for a second if you have any questions that have come in.
We don't have any questions that have come in yet, but you've been very thorough in your explanation, so that's probably why.
Brilliant. Okay, what I'll do, I might just delete a few of these things before we get into doing some more measurements. Okay, so look, what I'm going to do now is jump into doing a few kind of real life examples. So if we look over here at the garage, we can see that there's block work here for this wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure a strip foundation to go under that wall, just because that's probably one of the first things that you guys will be measuring. So you grab the length tool, because what we're going to want is a linear measurement to start, and then we can add extra dimensions to that to give it a width and a depth to get the volume of concrete we've needed. So we click on length. I think I have a group already made. I have. So if we click here, click around all of the outsides, and please don't take too much attention to me. I'm kind of just doing this quickly, but the slower you go, the more accurate you can be. And we'll just double click to finish. So we see up here on the right-hand side, we have 23.5 linear meters of strip foundation needed. An awesome feature that we have for adding height, width, and depth is up here in the middle of the result and the total. So if we click on this blue square, it's going to pop open a little modal that allows us to add an extra dimension to an existing measurement. So if we can click on here, so typical strip foundation is going to be 600 mil wide, so 0.6 of a meter, and the engineer has told us that it's also going to be 600 mil deep. So this transforms from being 23.5 linear meters into needing 8.46 meters cubed of concrete for this strip foundation. So that works awesome because you can price the supply and install of a cubic meter of concrete really simply, because to buy it, I think, is about $350 out in the market at the moment. The next one I'm going to jump in is to show you how to measure if we were doing the concrete slab, let's say for this garage area. So what we would do is grab the polygon tool. Again, I'm just going to show you how to do a new group. I have one set up, but just to really drill it into you guys, how to set this up. Garage slab. Give it a nice bright color. Find that when you're doing an area measurement, it's really good to use a bright color, because that means that when you're coming through, or if you need to measure walls or something after, you can put like a darker color for the wall, so it doesn't really hinder your view. So just quickly clicking around the corners and double click to finish. And we can see up here that we have 41.15 meters squared, the area of that floor. So again, we click on this cube, and the engineer has told us that he wants 100 mil of concrete. So we need 4.12 meters cubed of concrete to do this garage. Another feature that we have that I didn't show you, because you kind of need a measurement on the screen to be able to show you, is to be able to, we have the area of this space. So if we needed to get the perimeter of this space, rather than doing double work, something that we can do is use this little checkbox to the left-hand side of the line item. And you'll see that it produces 3 more options here. So you can duplicate a measurement. That just gives you the exact same as what you've already done. The perimeter, so that's if it's an area measurement, like a meter squared, that will give you the linear meters of the outside of that measurement. So that can quite often work well if you're doing a slab, and it also needs to be a strip foundation, or if there's block work around the outside. So we'll just click on perimeter, and you can see here that it's just kind of copied the group. So I might call that one block work for the outside. Now, so you can see here that it's given me a linear meter measurement for the outside of these walls. And hypothetically speaking, if it was block work, I would be adding a height to those walls, because we need to get the area of the walls to be able to calculate the amount of bricks. So we'll just say it's 3 meters. And then we have 83.61 meters squared would be the area of all of these walls around the outside of this garage. Okay, so what I will do now, I'll just move on over here. We find ourselves a bit of clean space. And the next measurement I'm going to make is for the flooring for this main area. So again, I grab the polygon tool, go new group again, just to let me show you how to do it. So main area flooring. Again, we'll give it a nice light color. I won't be too perfect clicking around the corners, but we'll do it quickly. So we can really see here how by using digital takeoffs, it speeds up the process so much. And the accuracy as well, trying to get an area for a measurement like this, it's going to take you 10 or 15 minutes, where that took 30 seconds. So the feature I'd like to really show you here is the duplicate function. So if we are measuring the floor area for this whole area, the main area, we can click on this checkbox again out here to the left-hand side of main area and press duplicate. So rather than measuring twice to be able to get the floor and the ceiling, we can just reuse work we've already done. And then press enter. And that works well. When you continue through to the estimate, you'll see that you have separate line items for those two rather than having them under the one. Okay, I've shown you how to do block work over there. So we'll just jump in and I'll give you a quick look at maybe how to do some internal framing. So we'll grab the length tool. Again, we'll call it internal framing. And we'll give it a darker color. I won't measure all the walls just for the sake of speed, but we'll measure a few. So we'll click to finish. Okay, so what we have up here is linear meter measurement. So a formula that I always like to work out when I was on site is, or had my carpentry company, is per linear meter of framing, like how many linear meters that I would need of stick framing. So if it's a 400 center or 600 center, there's going to be different formulas to work out, but you can work it out from this linear measurement. So I'd encourage you all just to have just to work that out on your own and to have those. And another way to do it is to get the square meter and to know that per 1 square meter of wall, I need X amount of linear meters. We can't give you that formula because it varies between top plates and bottom plates, depending on what the engineer has said, how many rows of nogs, how high it is. So there is a few variables in there, but I encourage you guys just to work that out, and you'll know best for your own business how to do that. And then one last thing I'd like to show you, a feature we haven't gotten to, is how to add pitch if we're doing roof, because we know that looking down on a plan like this is the flat, but if it's on a 30-degree pitch or 20-degree pitch, it's going to alter the meter squared needed. So what I'll do is I'll grab the polygon tool, we'll give it a new group, we'll call it roofing, and we'll give it a green. So if we just click, you can see in the dotted line here, there's a roof over. So we click here, we'll get a meter squared measurement for the roof. So again, by clicking this cube in the middle, it's going to give us the options. So we have pitch here. So we can add 30 degrees, and that changes it from 90 meters to almost 105 meters. So it's quite a considerable difference when you take into account the pitch. So just be sure to factor all those things in when you're measuring. Also, that pitch tool works really well if you're measuring rafters for a roof or hip rafters for a roof. You can use the length tool. If this was just one rafter, you click from side to side. And again, we know, so that's 7.86 meters on the flat. So if we were ordering materials, we can click on this, we can add in 30 degrees. 30 degrees. We can see that rather than ordering timber that's 7.86 meters, we need to make sure that we cover over 9 meters to have plenty of wastage and to cover that area. Okay, I'm just going to take a quick pause there again before I jump into the elevation and just show you a couple more features and example of materials. So if there was any questions at this stage.
It's been very informative. We don't have any yet. I think everyone's very intently watching your screen.
Perfect. Okay, let's jump down here into the elevation. Okay, we'll zoom out slightly. So if we were measuring cladding for this house, this is something that we can do quite easily. You can see there's a lot of windows, a lot of big windows, so we want to make sure to remove them. So what we're going to do is grab the polygon tool. Again, we're going to create a new group. We are going to call it external cladding. And the beauty about marking up plans like this as well is that when you do send off an estimate to a client, you can attach these marked up plans to the estimate so they really kind of see the detail that you've gone into, setting yourself apart from maybe another competitor who might have sent through a quote just with a final total or a number in an email. The client will be able to see really that you've put in the effort and you've gone through all of the various materials in fine detail. And there is a little bit more cladding up here. And it actually goes down. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, so here we've got, we need to remove these windows. So as I showed you earlier, we have the deduct tool. So we'll click on that. And what that does is it just automatically selects a similar function to this rectangle. So you just click in one corner and drag to the opposite side and let go and give it half a second and you'll see that it just removes it. So if we're watching up here, you can see at the moment we have 84.25 meters squared. So by removing, it's almost 2 meters, so it should go down to 82. Yeah, so it just kind of removes it as it's going. So yeah, again, this is a really time-saving tool and gives a great visual for the client. Or even if you're going ordering materials, this is awesome. Okay, so that really is a good look at all of the functionality that we have on the screen. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible There are endless use cases. So again, just to reiterate, what I'm trying to do here today is to arm you with the knowledge and confidence just to go ahead and use the tools so that you can apply it to kind of any material that it is that you need to measure. And it really, these few simple tools will allow you to pretty much measure anything that you need to measure. Just before I continue through onto the next page and show you how to review the measurements, I'll stop once more just to see, is there any more questions?
Not at the moment.
No. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so up here on the right-hand side, as I mentioned, you can get these marked up plans and attach them to your quote. So just by clicking this button, it will trigger an email. That email takes maybe 2 or 3 minutes to generate, just because it needs to factor in all of the work that you've done. And what it also does is it attaches a legend. So it'll come with a legend up on the top left-hand side. It will show you the color of the measurement, the name of the measurement, and then the total measurement. So it's really awesome for the couple of use cases, both sending to the client and if you want to send it to a contractor, because you could definitely send a plan like this to a client contractor. So that's if you click here. And the next button is review an estimate. So there's an intermediary page here, which will just give you the option just to review everything that you've done. So you can see here the measurement, the unit of measurements, whether or not you've added height, depth, or pitch, and then the total. So this is the original measurement. And then if you've added a factor, it will give you this measurement. An awesome new feature that we've released, because we know that a lot of you like to see all these measurements in Excel, is we have an instant download to nicely formatted Excel. And then the last thing I just wanted to point out is this is the button just to convert all of these measurements into an estimate on House Pro. So you can continue on and prepare that beautiful estimate with your logo and company information ready to send off to the client. I will take a pause there again, just if there's any questions that have come through. Other than that, I think that's all that I kind of want to run through today, just to show you all of the takeoff functionality. And I hope I've given you a bit more confidence just to jump in and try it. Don't be shy, make some measurements, delete them, ask questions as well. We're always here to help. Lex, was there any final questions now?
I'm chatting with someone now. I'm not sure if they have a question, but give me 1 second.
Yeah, one other thing as well, I'll be staying on the line for the remainder of the webinar. So if you do have questions, just fire them through to me and I'll answer the questions in text.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I can answer them right now. And then I believe he might have messaged you during session. So if you want to ask any further to him, you can. But the question is, does the takeoff have any function to select polyline from a vector-based plan for takeoff?
Vector-based plan, we might need to elaborate on what that one is, but the polyline feature is just the length tool for getting a linear measurement. So look, I'll connect up with that person afterwards just to dig deeper on what that question is, and I'll be able to answer.
Okay. And then the second question that I have here is, are professionals able to import CAD plans into House?
No, so the only format that we accept is PDF plans. So if CAD is something that you're using, so you'll be able to just take measurements from CAD, but we encourage you just to export them from CAD as PDF, and then you can put them into our system as PDF.
Perfect. Okay. Easy. I'll let you connect with him after this.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I will stop sharing and I'll hand it over to you guys.
Hello, everyone. As Alexa and Kit mentioned, I'm the product support specialist for House Australia. And what I do is I help professionals set up their accounts when they start their House Pro journey with us. On top of that, I provide ongoing product support to ensure that the professional know how to utilize the software, receive sufficient training, and get the most out of the subscription. So jumping onto our agenda today, now that you have an understanding of how takeoff works in your House Pro, I'll continue with the best practice for estimates, and I'll be sharing my screen with you for that. And there you go. So is the visual okay, guys? Perfect. All right. So you're seeing project dashboard in front of you. So I'll be explaining the best practice now for estimates. Now, a little bit about Housepro Estimates is that you can easily add any products and services from parts and categories into your estimates with just one click. Information such as item description, photos, product cost, and client data are automatically pulled into the estimates. Now, there are a few places to create estimates in Housepro. The one is you can convert a takeoff measurement into an estimate. I'm sure Keith already showed you how you can create estimates from all the measurements you have taken using our takeoff tools. But there is another place you can create an estimate from the scratch or using a few of our different methods, which is from the project dashboard. As I mentioned, you can create the estimates from scratch. Also, you can have the option to upload your own estimates. So if you have your PDF or image file, we support that as well. And finally, you can create it from a template, which is saved in your Housepro software. Now I'll show you quickly what a built-out estimate looks like. So this is a typical estimate that it looks like, and it has different sections, and which I'll go through it in a bit. So at the very beginning, you have general infos. So usually in this section, you have information about your business and your clients. Now, the beauty of this software is that if you ever have to change any of this information, you certainly can do so by clicking on the pencil icon and change it from here. Next thing you have is the title of the estimates and subtitle, which are also customizable. And on to the right of that, you have a few key dates. One of them is due, another one is the creation date. And beneath that, you have the status of the estimates. Right now, it is in the draft status, as you can see. Now, beneath these sections, you have the item section, which is one of the most important sections in this document, where you add all the line items, essentially. So as you can see, I've already added a few of these line items for you, ready to go. You have different columns within these items, which are also highly customizable. So you have the option to choose what columns to add or not add into your documents. Not only that, you also have the option to change the order of the columns by simply dragging them from the left-hand side and then whichever direction you like it to be moved. To add an item to this section, all you have to do is click on Add Items, which will ask you to add product from your library. Now, I highly recommend you guys to update your parts and categories, which you can find under the Manage drop-down, to update it initially whenever you're setting up your Housepro account. It's because the more up-to-date parts and categories you have, the better it is for you to create any documents, because it makes the whole process really faster. Now, whenever you're adding any items to this library, essentially you're adding information such as the unit price, the GST, SKUs, or any other relevant information that your stakeholder might find useful. So I highly recommend you guys to get that thing sorted before you start creating any documents. Now, to add an item, all you have to do is just select any of these items from the library and then click on plus sign, and that will get added to your item list. Now, once you've added all the items, the next section is your subtotal, which gives you an overview of the total amount along with the GST breakdown. Beneath this section you have is the payment section. Now, we have a whole section today dedicated to this topic, so I'll return to this in a moment. Beneath that, you have file section. Now, this is really another of the important feature within the estimates, where you can essentially add any other extra information that you might have been not added in the item section. So information such as your floor plan, any of the photos of the products, or even the videos of your construction site, you have the option to do so by simply clicking on upload files here and then uploading it from your local device. Now, beneath that, you have the terms and condition, and all the businesses have terms own TNC, and this is the section where you can add your TNC. Now, I understand that even copy and pasting TNC every time you're creating an estimate could be time consuming. So that's why feel free to take advantage of our My Template tool. So My Template tool, what it essentially does is whenever you click on My Template, you essentially can add your own TNC, and then you can use that as a default for any of the documents within Housepro. To do that, all you have to do is click on Create New. Over here, you can copy and paste your TNC, give it a title, and then from the bottom over here, you can link that as a default TNC for either your estimate, invoice, or other documents within Housepro. And that's all you gotta do to have that as a default. Now, the section beneath that is memo section. That is also a text box section. So information that could be relevant to this document, you can utilize this section here. And also there is a My Template integration, so that this functionality is identical to what I've just shown you. And beneath that is the signature. Now, this electronic signature you see, we added this not so long ago. So what it does is whenever you send this to your client, upon approval, your client needs to sign it digitally. So a few of the benefits is that it gives your documents a legal binding. So say if down the road, if your client ever goes back on their word or any misfortunate thing happens, you have this document with their signature to back it up. And whenever they're signing the document, they're essentially agreeing to all the terms and conditions or any other content that you have included in your estimates. And then the last part of this estimate we have is the activity stream. And I believe this is one of the most underrated feature of this document. The reason why is that because it's located at the very bottom. Not only that, it kind of gives you a lot of information or activities that you have done in regards to this document. So if you're ever confused of any actions or if you are unsure about anything that within the documents, all you have to do is just open the document, scroll all the way down. And over here, you can see activities such as the creation date or log payments or any kind of further changes that has been made by you or any of your team members, along with the timestamp to the right. And that's all you need to know about the content of the estimates. The next part we'll do is we'll share this to your client. To do that, all you have to do is click on preview and share, and it will take you to a client view window. So before it was an edit view, and now it's a client view. So this is essentially what your client will see. So all this information is that you can overview and see if there's any information that you like to edit. So for example, if you want to switch certain of these elements within this view on and off, all you have to do is click on settings and then tick or untick any of the boxes. Now, this gives you a better control over what your client can see on this document. Another useful tips could be the approve by per line item feature. So what it does is whenever you click on approve per line item, it adds the approval and decline functionality on each of the line items. So some of the benefits could be it helps you cut down communications back and forth between you and your client in case if there is any adjustment that needs to be made. So essentially your clients can have better control over what they can approve and decline. So once you're ready to share this with your client, click on share at the top, right? And then all it does is it will tell you, gives you an email body along with subjects and the recipient's headings. So you can send this to multiple recipients if you wish to. As for the email body, I can understand that every time writing this thing could be time consuming. So in that regard, you can also take advantage of our My Template, and the functionality is exactly the same as the TNC that I've just previously shown you. All you have to do is create a new, you can give it the title, you can write your own, draft up your own response, and then set it as a default for any of your documents. And that's pretty much all you have to know about sharing. Once you send this to your client, the status of this document automatically change from draft to send. So the next part of estimate is getting this approved. Now, there's two ways this document can be approved. One is your client can approve it when they receive it, or if your client trusts you really well, you can do it on their behalf. To do that, all you have to do is go back to the edit mode of your estimates and click on more action. And then you have the option to either approve the whole estimates or approve per line item. So these are the two options that you can do to best practices you can do to with your estimates. Now, before I move on to the payment section, I'd just like to pause here and ask if there's any questions.
Yes, let me see. Someone is asking, can we set approved line items for specific lines only, not every line?
So great question. So if you activate approve per line item, it pretty much adds that functionality to each line. So unfortunately, it can't be done. The reason is that makes things more clearer. And also, if you add, say, for example, line items approval to some of the items at the very bottom, it can create a lot of confusion. And then that could delays the estimate getting approved. So to answer your question, it is the approved line item is for each of the line items that you have within the estimates.
It is a good question, though, and I can understand how it could be potentially useful. So what we can go ahead and do is just put that through to our team as a product request and see what they come back with.
Great.
Thanks so much. No other questions as of yet.
Fantastic. So I'll move on to the next section, which is how you set up your scheduled payments and different invoicing tips. So first, I'll talk about how you can use our scheduled payment feature within both estimates and invoice. To do that, I'll go down to the payment section of the estimate that I just sent. So in this payment section, you can schedule multiple payments using our payment feature. All you have to do is click on schedule payment, and that will create a line items for your payments. And it will ask you to add all this information, such as your payment names, your amounts, terms and condition, details, and status. Now, all of these are highly customizable. So if you want to give it a different name, you certainly can do so. Not only that, you also have the option to schedule multiple payments as you wish. And the software automatically calculates it in the backend for you. So once you're done scheduling all the payments, you can set the due dates accordingly. And with the status bar, it's something you should know that if you're ever confused about any of the payment status, all you have to do is come down to these payments and then check the status. It can be either upcoming, paid, or even dues. So it's quite handy when it comes to locating any of your payments and knowing their status. Now, once this payment is logged, scheduled, the next thing is getting paid. Now, there are a few ways you can receive money or log monies into or any of the document that you share. The first one is using our online payment feature. This is a feature that you set up in HousePro by connecting your bank accounts and following a few steps. So what it does is it allows your client to pay for any documents using their credit card. Now, do keep in mind that there is a 1.4% transaction fee that is charged by a third-party app like Stripe. So that's one of the methods. But the second method is by typical bank transfer. Now, to do that, you need to add your banking information within the documents. Now, you can use our memo section here to add your banking details. And another fun tips, all of this section that you see, whether it's TNC, memo, or signature, these are, you can easily change their order. So essentially, all you have to do is hold them from the left next to their name and then drag them wherever you like it to be placed. So personally, I prefer to place it beneath the payment section. And then you can also rename this section essentially, and I can change it to banking details, say for example. And then essentially have that information ready to go. So whenever your client receives this document, you will have this information beneath the payment section. So those are the two ways you can receive money or log payments for your documents. Now, to log payments, certain document needs to be at a certain stage. So for example, this is an estimate that you're receiving your money against, and you see that the log payment is blocked out. The beauty of a software is that it tells you on every steps what action that it needs to be taken in case there is a blocker. As you can see, there is a blocker called, gives you a warning that the estimate needs to be approved before you log this payment. So all you have to do is approve it from more action that I've already showed you. And then once it's approved, as you can see, that blocker is removed. Now that's pretty much all you need to know about the scheduling payment. I will move on to the invoicing tips, where I'll show you also how you can log each of these payments manually. But before I move on, any questions regarding payment scheduling?
I haven't had any questions, but I do want to highlight, I know Gary mentioned that you can put in templates like your T's and C's. You can also put in a template for your bank details in the memo section as well. So if you prefer to work that way, feel free to create a template there and then upload that in your memo too. So it works in that box too.
Great. So moving on. So once you're ready to convert this into an invoice or even like create a new one, all you have to do is get these estimates approved, and which brings us to the next section of our section, which is essentially different invoicing tips. Now, the beauty of our software is how interconnected each of the documents are with each other. Essentially, if you want to create an invoice, this question might come to your mind that, do I have to start all over again or input all this information from ground zero? Now, the answer to that question is absolutely not. Once you convert an estimate into an invoice, all the information that you entered into that estimate essentially get pulled into your invoice. And that includes your line items, your payment details, or any other relevant information that you've added. So to do that, all you have to do is click on Create Invoice. And then since there is a payment schedule against that other document, it will give you a prompt action, which will ask you to transfer all those payments into the new invoices. You can do so by simply clicking on Create Invoice. And then, as you can see, it will automatically populate all the information that you had previously entered. Now, let's talk about logging payments. So to log a payment is super simple. If you've received the payment via bank transfer, you have to log it manually. However, if you receive it online by credit card transaction, the software automatically logs it for you. But say, for example, if you got it via bank transfer, all you have to do is click on Log Payment next to the payment, and then fill in all those information. And also, you have the option to send receipt to your client directly from here whenever you're logging in, simply by ticking this box and done. And the software does all the job for you. So that's all you need to know about logging payments. Back to the invoice. As I mentioned, if you master how to customize your estimates, you pretty much have an understanding of how you can work out your invoices because the functionality is identical to each other. So some of the things that we get asked a lot about invoice though is the issuing an invoice. Now, we always recommend our approach to issue an invoice at the very end of invoice's life cycle. The reason is that whenever you issue an invoice, it pretty much logs the entire document and prevents it from any further adjustment. Now, we kept the system such way is because definitely invoice is an legally binding document. So restricting editing is important and it could save you a bit of trouble further down the line. And that's one of the major reasons we kept the system this way. A few other things to keep in mind. If you ever want to find any linked documents, such as, for example, I've created this form and estimate. If you ever want confused and want to find that out, you can find the link document always located on the left-hand side of the status symbol. So over here, and by clicking on this button here, you can redirect yourself to that estimate. Not only that, you also can go to activity stream and then, which is located at the very bottom, and then you can find out how this invoice was created. And finally, if you're using Xero as an accounting software, and if you have integrated that software with our software, what it will happen is that if a document is at a certain stage, it will automatically get synced to your accounting software, further cutting down your admin work. And that's pretty much all you need to know about the invoicing tips. I'm going to move on to the next section, but before I do that, I would like to pause for a question.
Yes, I do have a couple questions. Someone's asked if you can sync to Xero, and I've mentioned to that you can. So for anyone else who has that question, you can. We did cover this yesterday in our session, which we recorded, and all three of the sessions, if you can't make tomorrow or you missed yesterday, will be sent to you. So feel free to reach out to me in the meantime, and I can send you a help article on how to sync that. And then we had another question about if you need to adjust the estimate, you can create a variation order from the estimate, which Giri can go into a little bit more detail.
Yeah, certainly. So if you ever have to make an adjustment to your estimate at this stage, we all understand that there's things that might change further down the project lifecycle. So if any changes needs to be made, all you have to do is you can convert an estimate into a variation order and then have that sent to your client for approval. And that's one of the ways you can do that. All you have to do is, if I go back to the estimates again, let's show you an example. So as you can see, this is my estimates. So if I ever want to do any variation, all I have to do is go to More Action, click on Create Variation Order, and then simply select any of the items that you want to be removed or added. And then once you tick them, which is located on the left-hand side of their title. All you have to do is share this document with your client, and then the variation order will be sent to your client, essentially.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
That's great. So any more questions?
Not at the moment. Nope.
Perfect. So moving on. So that brings us to the next part of our session, which is where I'll be showing you how you can scheduling using the timeline feature, and also how you can assign tasks. First, I'll cover the timeline, which you can find either from your project dropdown, or you can go to any of the project dashboard and find timeline on the left-hand side. Now, a little bit about the timeline is it is both a project management and a client collaboration tool that helps you to make sure everyone, including your teams, your subbies, and your client, is on the same page. Now, it's a place where you can easily see the next steps in your project in both Gantt view. Also, you have the option to change the view to a calendar. So you have two options that you can do. Also, a little bit about the timeline is it's consists of few of the elements called items and sub-items, which you can create super easily. So I'll quickly go through all the functionality of the timeline now. Now, at the very top, when you open, you have these icons, as you can see. So this essentially tells you who has access to your timeline. So whether it's your client, your teams, or your subcontractors. Now, you can essentially change their access from this point by flicking these options. Next thing is the filtering option. So you have the option to filter out your timeline based on the assignees. And assignee, I mean your team members or your subbies or even your client, or by status. And this is a handy features after you're done planning your timeline. The next part is the view, which I've already shown you. So you have the Gantt view and the calendar view. So whichever view you find most comfortable. And this next to that is the calendar syncing option. Now, if you want to take all this information and export it to an external calendar, whether it's your Gmail or your Outlook, our software allows you to do so by simply clicking on more option and click on calendar sync. What it does is it creates a unique URL, which you can copy and then add it to your external calendar to sync all this information that you see into your other calendar. So that's a handy feature to keep in mind. The next thing is if you would like to export this as a PDF or even as image file, you have the option to do so, which what I've done is click on more action, click on export as, and what it does, it gives you some of the option to download these. So whether you can have the full view or the current view, or you can choose the file formatting option. So we have currently a PDF and PNG option, which is the image file. And click on export, that will download it into your local device. With the viewing, there's few ways you can fit the view. So one option is fitting it to the entire screen, and it will tell you, show you pretty much all the stages and compile that into one view. Or you can click on today's view just for a more clarity purpose. So two of the options. Next thing I'll show you is how you can add different stages and items and sub-items within the timeline, which is quite simple. And I've already done this for you. So I'll show you different components within the items. So this stage one pre-construction as a heading, this is called items. So that's like the big chunk of your project. And then over here, you can add descriptions, the status symbols, and also the assignees. So this is where you can assign your timeline to your different stakeholders of your project, whether it's your client, your team members. This is the place to add them. The next thing we have is the dates. So you have the starting date and end date, and the software does automatic calculation of how many working days required for that particular stage. And the following feature we have is the dependency feature. And this is one of the most important feature of timeline, and I'll tell you why. Dependency indicates basically the relationship between timeline items where the start of one item depends on the completion of the other. So basically, you can link each of these items to one another. And say, for example, your construction gets delayed for a week because of the poor weather condition, for example. Now, because of that delay, the rest of the other stages got delayed as well. I can understand how time consuming it can be to go into each of these stages and change their dates. So to avoid that, you can use this dependency feature. So by just adding them from this dashboard, what it does is if stage 1 get delayed by certain days and it get pushed, the rest of the elements or items who are dependent on this will also get pushed. So that will save you a lot of admin hours. Lastly, you can color code each of the stages for better visualization. And then under each of these items, you can add sub-items as well. And that's pretty much to know about timeline. I'm going to explore the task feature of HousePro, but before I do that, I'll pause and ask for any questions.
No questions, but just going back all the way to Xero, I think you will cover this at the end of your session, but just a reminder, we'll go over how to find articles in the Help Center for any of the topics that we discussed today.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks, Gary.
Perfect. So moving on to the next part, which is the task. Now, you can find task under the project dropdown and going to task. And a little bit about task is it helps you to keep track of projects, and also it helps you to understand exactly who is in charge of what. Now you can assign tasks to your team members and clients, and they'll be notified. And once they complete the task, you'll be notified so that you always know the status of your project. Now, as I mentioned, you can find it under project, and it will land you to the dashboard of the task, where you'll see all the open tasks in the middle and all the completed tasks to the right of it. Now, you can choose the view from card or even list view, but I prefer card because it's more detailed. You can use the search bar at the very top to find out any specific task. Say, for example, I'm going to look for permits. So you can use the keywords and then find all the tasks that contain that keyword. Also, you can sort them by due dates. You can also sort them by projects and assignees. And also, if you want to create a task, all you have to do is click on add a new task, give it a name, link it to a project, add a due date, and select an assignee. And as I've mentioned already, you can select your client or your team members as assignee. You also have the option to upload a file to this newly created task. Now, fun fact, if you ever assign a task to a client, not only your client gets email notification, this task will sit in the client dashboard as well. So for better collaboration, this is like a great features to keep everything on track. Now that you have an understanding of task, if you're planning to use this on a daily basis, here's a little tips for you. I love to bookmark things like whatever page I use on a daily basis. So if you ever want to use this and regularly, all you have to do is just bookmark it and call it task. So you know at the starting of your day where to go and then what task you need to complete for better project management. And that's pretty much task in a nutshell. I'm going to move on to the next section, but before I do that, I'll pause for questions.
We haven't had any that have come through specific to tasks, so happy for you to move on. Thanks, Gary.
Great. So the next part of our presentation is that I will show you how you can collaborate with different team members and subcontractors. Now, in HousePro, you can easily collaborate with your team members and subcontractors, as I mentioned. One of the benefits of this feature is that it allows you to invite team members and subbies to your projects to make sure that everyone is aligned with the project. And they can view the items you share with them, and you can let them know how they're progressing in their work. Now, first, I'll cover team members. And to do that, I'll just open one of the projects. And on the project dashboard, you can simply assign team members to different parts of your projects and different elements and features of your projects too. Now, if you joined our yesterday's session, which was about account fundamentals, you'll have an understanding of team members and how you can add them to your HousePro account. But today, I'll show you the collaboration part of it. So to assign the team members to a project, all you have to do is open the project dashboard, and from the right-hand side, select the project assignee, and under that, you can select your team members that you like to assign to this specific project. Not only that, you have the option to pretty much add them to tasks, which I've already shown you, and also timeline as well. Fun fact, if you ever want to pass any internal notes through Housepro software, you also have the option to do so from the project dashboard. Just navigate to the notes from the left-hand side. And this notes that you can share with your team members, which is purely internal, and only your team members have access to this part. The next part is the subcontractors. Now, I'll show you how you can add subbies to any of the specific projects. So all you have to do is open the project, and then from the top right corner, click on subcontractors and suppliers. Now from here, it will give you a drop-down list of all the subcontractors you have enlisted into your software. However, if you don't have them here included, you can always send them an invitation directly from here by simply clicking on invite new subbies, add their name and their email. And then role, obviously, subcontractor. And then the next part is an overview of the permission. Now, I understand that you're concerned about what information these subcontractors can see when they give them access. So here is an overview of the permission. So they'll be able to see project overviews, different files you share with them, any timelines, and the daily logs. But do keep in mind, you have full control over what of this information will be shown to your subcontractors. Now, once you're ready, you send them an invitation with a note if you wish to. Now, once they receive invitation, they will be asked to open an account with us. But don't worry, it's not time consuming at all. It literally takes less than a minute. And that's pretty much all you need to know about subcontractors in Housepro. Now, if you are unsure about any of the feature we have spoken today, you can always take advantage of our help center, where you can find articles, video tutorials, or different helpful content on different features of Housepro. To gain access to Help Center, all you have to do is click on Help and then click on Help Center. Now, there's two ways you can search for your topics. First is you can use the search bar to say zero, as Alexa mentioned. You're confused about how you can sing zero. Simply type in zero, and then you'll be given all these relevant articles that has got that keyword. Not only that, you can also browse through different specific features as well if you're ever unsure. So that will be under integration as a zero integration one. And all you have to do is click on integration, and you'll have all these relevant articles that will guide you through how you can add zero to our software. And that's pretty much concludes the deep dive into project workflow. Now I'm going to pass it on to Alexa for further Q&A. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Gary. We did have one question that was asked in relation to contractors. Do external contractors require to have their own profile with House for access into their project? And I can answer this. The answer to this is yes, but it is a free profile. They just need one in order to log into Housepro, but it's free, so they don't have to pay for that. Perfect. I haven't had any other questions that have come through, but what I'll go ahead and do is pop in. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Just a second. Perfect. Okay, so if you have any other questions, feel free to pop them through, and Keith or Gary can go ahead and answer those. But before we wrap up, I wanted to mention a few other items that might be of interest to you. The first one, I'm actually going to start with a poll. So you'll see something that will pop up on your screen at the moment. And basically what this is we are actually looking for local professionals who would be interested in being commentators, potential commentators for editorial stories. So it's a great opportunity for our professionals to get some free exposure. If this sounds of interest to you, highly recommend tick yes in the poll on your screen. That way we can keep a list and then get back to you after the session in terms of what that would look like. The second is letting you know of our latest Pro to Pro referral program. So if you do happen to know anyone who you think would benefit from using Housepro, what you can actually do is send them a unique referral code for them to sign up. And once they join, what will happen is you'll receive $500 credit to your current subscription plan. And then your friend will actually get a month free to whatever plan that they choose when they purchase. Your specific links will be emailed to you post the session. So just be on the lookout for them, but highly recommend to use those. And as a note, there's a separate link, one for AU and then one specific to New Zealand as well, because you want to keep track of those. And then the last thing is, once I end this webinar, there's going to be a survey that will just pop up at the end of your screen. We love feedback. We love to get some feedback in today's session, or if you didn't get a chance to add some from yesterday, feel free to enter that here. But that would be greatly appreciated. Perfect. Other than that, we haven't had any other questions that come through. So that will conclude today's session. If you have any questions, feel free to get in contact with us. You could also look for any articles in the Help Center. If you are confused about any of the features and tools that we discussed today, you could just go in there and have a little search and it will pop up for you. But we hope you have a good rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow in our last session. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.